don't you touch him." The words tore out of Clara Bennett's throat, a half-second before her body slammed between the drunk man and the 8-year-old boy, and the back of his hand cracked across her face so hard the whole restaurant went silent, blood on her lip. A small voice behind her, screaming one word in Italian, and a man in a black coat, walking slowly through the front door whose calm face made every grown adult in that room forget how to breathe. A shy waitress had just put herself between a mafia boss's son and a dead man walking, and she didn't know it yet. Clara Bennett had spent 26 years learning how to be invisible. That was the whole trick of her life. Walk with your head down. Don't take up space. Say I'm sorry before anyone else has a chance to be angry. At 26, she had one pair of black work shoes, 2 uniforms, a studio apartment above a laundromat where the ceiling leaked, and a mason jar full of crumpled tips she counted on her bed every Sunday's night. That was Clara Bennett on the Tuesday evening she walked into Benedetto's on 7th Street for her 6 to close shift. That was Clara Bennett for exactly 47 more minutes. "You're late, Bennett. Bus was late, Mr. Russo. I'm so sorry. Save it. Table 9 wants water, Table 4 is arguing about the check, and Table 12 has a kid who has been crying for 10 minutes and nobody can figure out why." Clara froze with her apron half-tied. A kid by himself? "Dad is in the bathroom. Just keep him quiet. I don't need a lawsuit tonight." She moved through the dining room the way she always did, head down, tray held tight, apologizing to people who hadn't even spoken to her yet. Table 9 wanted lemon. Table 4 wanted blood. And then she reached Table 12, and her feet stopped moving on their own. The little boy at the end of the booth couldn't have been more than 8. Dark curls, a gray wool coat still buttoned all the way up to his throat in a heated restaurant. He was holding a glass of orange juice, with both hands like it might try to get away from him, and his eyes when he lifted them to hers were the kind of eyes Clara had only ever seen on a stray dog that had learned the hard way that humans weren't safe. She went down on one knee so she was below him. "Hi, sweetheart. My name's Clara. What's yours?" He said nothing. "That is okay. You don't have to tell me." She softened her voice. "Are you waiting for somebody?" He nodded barely. "Your mom?" He shook his head. "Your dad?" A pause. A long one. Then slower, another nod. "Okay, honey. He'll be right back. Do you want some crayons?" "We've got." And that's when she saw it. Right along the edge of his jaw, almost hidden by the collar of the coat, a mark. Not a bruise yet, a fingerprint faint and pink. The kind of mark that is there 1 minute and gone the next, and people always tell themselves they imagined it. Clara's stomach went cold. "Honey," she whispered. "Did somebody hurt you?" His eyes darted to the front door, then to the bathroom hallway, then back to her. His little knuckles went white around the juice glass. Hey, look at me. You're safe here, okay? You're safe right now. I promise." She would remember saying that sentence for the rest of her life, because at exactly that moment the bathroom door swung open and a man stepped out. Clara didn't know his name yet. She only knew the type. Tall, broad-shouldered, mid-40s with a face the color of a bruise that had already started to happen. Untucked shirt, missing tie, walking the too careful walk of a man who was drunker than he wanted anyone to know. And his eyes when they found the little boy in the booth were not the eyes of a father. They were the eyes of a man who had been interrupted in the middle of something. "I told you to sit still." The boy flinched. His whole small body jerked backward into the leather like the words had hit him physically. Clara stood up slowly. "Everything okay, sir? Who the hell are you?" I'm his waitress." "I was just checking if he doesn't need anything." "Back off." "Yes, sir. I said back off." Clara took half a step back. Every instinct in her body was screaming at her to smile, apologize, disappear. That was the whole strategy of being Clara Bennett. Make yourself smaller. Make yourself gone. But the boy was looking at her. He wasn't crying now. He was just looking at her with those huge wet eyes, and his mouth was moving like he was trying to say something and couldn't. And Clara understood with a clarity she had never felt before in her entire life that this child was begging her not to walk away. She swallowed. "Sir, is this your son?" The man's head snapped toward her. "What did you just ask me?" "I asked if this is your son." "That is none of your damn business. I think it might be." The whole restaurant seemed to hold its breath, or maybe it was just the blood rushing in her ears. Clara didn't know. She only knew that the boy had very slowly reached out under the edge of the table, where only she could see it, and wrapped 2 small fingers around the hem of her apron, like he was holding onto a rope. The man saw it. His eyes went from the boy's hand up Clara's arm to her face. "Get him off you, sir." "I said get the brat to let go. We're leaving." "I don't think he wants to go with you, sir." "Excuse me?" "I said I heard what you said." His voice had dropped into something worse than shouting. "You got any idea who you're talking to right now, sweetheart?" "No, sir. And right now, I don't care." The words came out of her mouth and she didn't even recognize them. She, Clara Bennett, who had once let a man steal a sandwich from a deli because she was afraid of his tattoos. She, Clara Bennett, who hadn't raised her voice since the 6th grade. The man took a step toward her and her feet. Her stupid, shaking 26-year-old feet moved exactly half an inch to the left so that she was squarely between him and the booth. "Get out of my way." "No, sir." It was almost a whisper. She wasn't even sure she had said it until she saw his face change. "No. That was when he reached past her for the child's wrist, and that was when Clara Bennett, shy waitress, apology before hello girl, who lived behind a laundromat, grabbed the man's arm with both hands. "Don't you touch him?" The restaurant went dead silent. He looked down at her hands on his arm, then up at her face, and then slowly he laughed. A small, almost amused laugh like a man who'd just been told a joke he didn't fully get. "Okay," he said. "Okay, honey, you want to play?" She didn't see the hand move, she only felt it, a crack of white heat across her cheekbone, her head snapping sideways, her shoulder slamming into the edge of the booth. Somebody at another table screamed, a glass shattered on the floor. Somewhere Mr. Russo was yelling. And it was all very far away, like she was listening to it from underwater, and through the ringing in her ears, she heard the boy. He was crying again. But it wasn't a scared cry this time. It was a furious one, a small, desperate, wild wail, and in the middle of it, he shouted one word loud enough that the whole restaurant heard it. "Papa, not Daddy, not Dad, Papa." Clara blinked. The word didn't make sense, her whole face was throbbing, and the boy was shouting a word in Italian, and the drunk man didn't speak Italian, didn't look like he spoke anything besides loud. And the boy wasn't even looking at the drunk man. The boy was looking at the front door of the restaurant. Very slowly, because her head hurt, Clara turned to look too. He wasn't a big man. That was the strange part. He wasn't as tall as the drunk one. He wasn't broad. He wasn't anything you would pick out of a crowd if somebody told you to find the most dangerous person in the room. He was wearing a dark coat and a dark suit and dark leather gloves. And his hair was gray at the temples in the clean, expensive way that only very rich men's hair goes gray. He couldn't have been 50. His face was absolutely still. That was what Clara remembered later for years. Not his eyes, not his mouth, not anything he said. Just how still his face was. Two men stood behind him. They were not still. One of them was already putting a hand inside his coat. The still man raised one finger, just one, and the other man's hand stopped moving. Then the still man looked across the restaurant, at the booth, at the crying child, at Clara Bennett with blood running from the corner of her mouth, and his face did not change. Not at all, he just began to walk. "Papa," the boy said again, softer, and Clara felt the floor fall out from under her because the drunk man was still standing there with his hand raised, and the drunk man was not this child's father. The drunk man had been doing something else entirely. She didn't know what. Not yet. But every small wrong thing she had noticed in the last 3 minutes. The buttoned coat in a warm room, the pink mark on his jaw, the flinch, the way he had grabbed her apron under the table, every one of them lined up in her head in a row, and the picture they made was so ugly she could not look at it directly. The drunk man must have felt it at the same second she did. The flush drained out of his face in one sweep. He jerked his arm out of her grip so hard she stumbled. He took one step back, another. He turned toward the front door and stopped because the two men who had come in with the still man had very quietly, without anyone noticing, moved in front of the door. Listen, there has been a misunderstanding." The still man did not answer him. He walked past the drunk man as if the drunk man wasn't there. He walked past the staring tables. He reached the booth and he knelt down on one knee exactly the way Clara had knelt so that he was below his child's eye level. Luca, Seferito, are you hurt?" The boy shook his head. Then Clara would remember this for the rest of her life. The boy pointed with one small finger straight up at her. "Lay me ha, papa." "She helped me, Daddy." The still man's eyes moved, just his eyes, not his head, from his son to Clara. She was standing there with one hand on the edge of the booth because her knees were not working, and the other hand pressed to her cheek, and a thin line of blood running from her lip to her chin that she didn't even know was there. She wasn't thinking about her face. She was thinking very clearly one sentence on a loop. "This man is about to kill everyone in this restaurant." She didn't know how she knew, she just knew. "Sir," she whispered, "sir, please. Please don't hurt anybody. He is drunk. He didn't know who." The still man held up the one finger again, not at her, just generally. The whole restaurant stopped breathing at the same time. He stood up. He looked at her for a long moment. "What is your name?" "Clara, sir, Clara Bennett." "Clara Bennett." He repeated it like he was writing it down inside his head. "How old are you?" "Clara Bennett." 26, sir. 26 years old." A slow nod. "And you put yourself between my son and that man?" "Yes, sir. Knowing nothing about who my son is." "Yes, sir. Knowing nothing about who I am." "Yes, sir." There was a silence so long she could hear her own heartbeat. "Clara Bennett," the still man said. "My name is Alessandro Moretti. This is my son Luca." He paused. "You have done a very foolish thing tonight." Her knees almost gave out. "I know, sir. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I have a job. I have a landlord. Please, you misunderstand me." He took one step closer to her. She smelled cold air and something like wood smoke on his coat. "I did not say you did something wrong. I said you did something foolish." His eyes flicked just once to the blood on her chin. There is a difference. She could not speak. He turned his head slightly toward the man at the door, Tommaso. The man came forward. He was enormous. "Si, Don Alessandro, please take Mr. Halford outside quietly. Do not frighten my other guests." "Si, signora." And Clara stood there and watched as Marcus Halford, she didn't know his name yet, but she would, was walked, not dragged, just walked with a hand on each elbow, straight out of the front door of Benedetto's. He did not resist. He did not speak. He was the color of paper. And Clara knew with the exact same calm certainty. She had felt 2 minutes before one single thing. I am never going to see that man again. Alessandro Moretti turned back to her. You are bleeding, Miss Bennet. I'm fine, sir. You are bleeding. He took out a white handkerchief, perfectly folded, and held it out to her. She stared at it. Her hand would not move. He waited a second, then simply placed it in her palm and closed her fingers around it. Sit down. I have tables, sir. Sit down, Miss Bennet. She sat. And the little boy, little Luca Moretti, climbed across the leather seat without a word and pressed his dark curls into her arm, leaning there as if he had known her his whole life. And Clara Bennet, shy waitress girl, who had never cried in public in her adult life, felt something hot and terrible rise up in her throat. I'm sorry, she whispered to nobody. I'm sorry, I don't know what. Miss Bennet. Alessandro's voice was quiet. Listen to me. My son is alive tonight because of you. Do you understand what I am saying to you? She couldn't answer. The man who hit you tonight has been looking for my son for some time. He believed he could use him to hurt me. He came very close. A pause. He did not come close because of you. Sir, I only saw a scared little boy. I know what you saw, Miss Bennet. He looked down at Luca, pressed into her arm, and for the first time his face moved just a little, just around the eyes, something she could not read, Mr. Russo. The manager jumped like he had been shocked. Yes, Don Moretti. Miss Bennet is finished for the evening. Pay her wages in full. I would also like her given 2 weeks of paid leave beginning tonight. You will not deduct it from anything. Of course, Don Moretti. Thank you. He turned back to her and he crouched down again so his eyes were level with hers. Miss Bennet, I am taking my son home now. You are coming with us. Sir, I can't. I live on Fulton Street. I have a cat. I have... Miss Bennet, his voice stayed very soft. The man who hit you tonight has friends. Those friends now know your face. They saw you stand between that child and him. Do you understand what I am telling you? Her mouth went dry. They are going to come looking for me. They are going to come looking for you. Because I helped a little boy? Because you helped my little boy. His eyes did not leave hers. And that is why you are coming home with us tonight. Not because I am making you, but because I am asking you. I have not asked anyone for anything in a very long time. The corner of his mouth moved, almost a smile. Please. And then Luca Moretti's small, warm hand slipped into hers under the table. Per favor, he whispered. Clara Bennet looked from the boy to his father and back again. And she nodded. She didn't know it yet, but in the second she nodded. Her old life, the apartment above the laundromat, the mason jar of tips, the 2 black uniforms. The careful invisible shape she had made of herself for 26 years, all of it was already gone. She was still pressing a stranger's handkerchief to her lip. She was still hearing the slap in her left ear. She was still feeling the little boy's hand in hers. And in her head, over and over, the one word he had screamed across the restaurant when the still man had walked in. Papa. Outside on 7th Street, a black car sat at the curb with the engine running. The driver looked at the 3 of them. The man in a dark coat, a small boy with tear tracks on his cheeks, and a waitress with blood on her chin. And he did not blink. He opened the back door. Alessandro placed his hand at the small of her back. Not pushing, just there. After you, Miss Bennet. She stopped with 1 foot on the curb. She turned her head and looked one last time at the warm gold windows of Benedetto's, at the white tablecloths, at her apron still hanging on its hook by the kitchen door, at a life she was walking away from without even knowing, yet that she was walking away from it forever. Then she bent her head and she got in the car, and the heavy black door closed behind her with a sound like a lock turning in a room she had never been inside before. The car pulled away from the curb before Clara Bennet could change her mind. She sat with her hands folded tight in her lap, the white handkerchief pressed to her lip, her knees pushed together so hard they hurt. On her right, little Luca Moretti had not let go of her other hand. On her left, past an inch of empty leather, sat a man whose name she had heard 3 times in her life, and whose face she could not yet bring herself to look at. Alessandro Moretti did not speak for a long time. He only took out a phone, pressed 1 button, and said 4 words into it. Bring the doctor now. Then he put the phone away. Clara swallowed. Sir, I really don't need a... Miss Bennet, yes sir, you are shaking. She looked down at her own hands. He was right. She hadn't noticed. It's the adrenaline, sir. I'll be fine in a minute. It is not the adrenaline. His voice was very quiet. It is what comes after the adrenaline. It will get worse before it gets better. Please drink the water. She hadn't seen the bottle of water. It was in the cup holder beside her, already opened. She didn't remember him opening it. She took it in one shaking hand and drank, and the cold of it hurt her teeth. Luca's head was getting heavier on her arm. Is he falling asleep? Yes, in the middle of all this. He has done this before, Miss Bennet. He has learned to sleep when it is safe. A pause. He feels safe next to you. Clara looked down at the boy. His long eyelashes were wet and his mouth had fallen open just slightly, and he had both arms wrapped around her forearm like she was a stuffed animal. Something inside her chest cracked open in a way that scared her. I don't understand why, she whispered. Children know things adults have forgotten how to know. She didn't have an answer for that. The city light slid across the inside of the car, and she saw in the reflection of the window, Alessandro's face turned very slightly toward her, watching, not in the way a man watches a woman, but in the way a man watches something he is trying to understand. "Sir," she said finally, because the silence was unbearable. "May I ask a question?" "You may ask anything you like. I may not answer all of it." The drunk man, who was he?" Alessandro did not look at her. "His name is Marcus Halford. Is he in a lot of trouble right now?" "Mr. Halford is no longer a concern to you, Miss Bennet." She felt the bottom of her stomach drop. "Sir, I don't want anybody to get—" "Miss Bennet, yes, sir. I said he is no longer a concern to you. I did not say what you were imagining. I would ask you please to stop imagining it." She closed her mouth. Luca made a small noise against her arm, a tiny half-word in his sleep, and her whole body stilled because she was afraid of waking him. "He doesn't talk much, does he?" she said softly. "No. Has he always been like that?" "No." She waited, but the word came out alone and stayed there. Alessandro Moretti did not explain it. He only looked out the window, and for the first time, in the reflection of the glass, Clara saw the expression on his face change just for a second. A tightening at the corner of the eye, a muscle moving in his jaw. The calm, still man who had walked into her restaurant was gone for half a breath, and what was underneath was not calm at all. It was something she had no word for. Then it was gone, and the calm was back. The car slowed. Iron gates were opening somewhere ahead of them in the dark. Clara's fingers tightened around Luca's small ones without meaning to. "Don Moretti," she whispered. "I don't belong in a house like this." He turned his head finally and looked at her directly. "Miss Bennet," he said, "tonight you belong exactly where I put you." And that should have frightened her. It did frighten her, but under the fear was something else she did not have a name for yet. A small stubborn part of her that had grown in the last 40 minutes like a weed through concrete, and that part of her was not afraid. That part of her was furious. Furious at Marcus Halford. Furious at a world in which a little boy's jaw got pink marks on it. Furious at 26 years of her own quiet voice. She did not say any of this. She only nodded. The car stopped in front of a house that was not a house. It was the kind of building that had 2 floors, only because the people who lived there had decided out of politeness not to build 3. A tall woman in a black dress was already waiting at the front steps, hands folded in front of her. She was not young. Her hair was iron gray and her eyes were the same color. "Rosa," Alessandro said, stepping out first. "Get a bed ready in the blue room. Miss Bennet will be our guest tonight. Carlo will bring Dr. Bianca up the moment he arrives." "Yes, Don. Yes, Luca is asleep," Rosa said. "Please be gentle when you take him." The woman called Rosa moved immediately to the car door, and Clara felt the strangest ache as the sleeping child was lifted carefully out of her arm. Luca made a small whimper without waking. His dark curls fell against Rosa's shoulder, and Clara, still holding the handkerchief to her lip, felt her throat close up for reasons she could not explain. "This way, Miss Bennet," Alessandro said. Inside, nobody looked at her for longer than a second, but everybody looked at her. Men in dark suits in the hallway, a woman polishing something in a side room, a boy her age carrying a tray who almost dropped it when he saw the blood on her chin. Nobody asked a question. Nobody said a word. She understood, without being told, that in this house you did not ask questions, and then the questions found her anyway. "Alessandro." The voice came from a doorway on the right. A man stood there older than Alessandro by 10 years, maybe shorter, heavier in the shoulders, with the kind of face that had once been handsome, and was now something you did not want to sit across from at a card table. His eyes went from Alessandro to Clara, and they stayed on Clara for 3 seconds too long. "Who is this, Vincenzo?" "Not tonight. You bring a stranger into this house with blood on her face at this hour and you tell me not tonight." "I am telling you not tonight." "Yes, Alessandro. Vincenzo, I said not tonight." The 2 men looked at each other. There was a whole conversation in the look that Clara could not hear. Then the older man's eyes cut to her again, and he did something small with his mouth that was almost a smile and was not actually a smile at all. "Miss, welcome to our home. Thank you, sir." He did not move from the doorway. Alessandro walked her past him without another word, his hand at her back again, light as a feather, guiding her up a staircase that seemed to go on forever. She did not look back, but she could feel the older man's eyes on her shoulder blades until the turn of the landing took her out of sight. "That is your brother," she said quietly. "Yes. He does not want me here. He does not know you yet. Vincenzo is cautious. It is his job to be cautious." Alessandro paused at a door. "Please, in here." The room he opened was blue, every blue Clara had ever seen in her life, in shades she did not know had names. A bed the size of her whole apartment. A window that looked out over a garden full of small lamps. She stood in the doorway and did not move. "Sir, I can't. This is too much. I can't." "Miss Bennet, the doctor will be here in 4 minutes. Please sit down on the bed. Rosa will bring clean clothes and warm water. You will not be disturbed." "Sir, yes. What happens tomorrow?" He was all quiet for a long second. "Tomorrow we talk," he said. "Tonight you rest. Do not make tomorrow's decisions tonight, Miss Bennet. You have had a long enough day." And then he did something she did not expect. He inclined his head to her. Not a nod, but a very small formal bow, and he closed the door. She sat down on the edge of the bed and she burst into tears. She did not make a sound. She was too well trained for that, 26 years of swallowing everything, and the tears just came out of her face in silence, sliding into the cut at the corner of her mouth and stinging. She cried because her face hurt. She cried because she did not know where her purse was. She cried because she had a cat named Marbles in an apartment on Fulton Street who would not be fed tonight. She cried because a little boy with dark curls had put his small hand in hers and whispered, "Per favor." She cried because she was sitting on a bedspread that probably cost more than she made in a year, and because she did not know anymore who she was supposed to be. There was a soft knock at the door. "Miss," it was Rosa. She came in with a tray, warm water in a bowl, a stack of clean folded cloths, a small glass, and a dark bottle with no label. She set the tray down and she looked at Clara's face, and then she did something that broke Clara in a different way. She sat down next to her on the bed and she put one hand on Clara's back and she did not speak. Clara cried harder. "Shh, Piccolina," Rosa murmured. "Shh, it is okay. It is okay now. I don't belong here. No one belongs here at first. No one. Not me either. The boy, he was so, I know, Piccolina. I know who that child is. I have raised him since he was very small. I know what you did tonight." Clara turned her head. "You know, everyone in this house already knows. Miss Bennet. Don Alessandro made 2 phone calls before you got in the car. The first was to the doctor. The second was to every man in his family." Rosa's old gray eyes were very steady. "Your name is already in this house. You have no idea yet what that means." Before Clara could ask, there was another knock. The doctor was an old man with gentle hands who did not ask a single question he didn't need the answer to. He cleaned the cut at her mouth. He put ice on her cheekbone. He held up 2 fingers and asked her to follow them with her eyes. And then very quietly he said, "Miss Bennet, I am going to look at your ribs now, may I?" My ribs are fine, doctor. He only hit me in the... Please lift your arm." She lifted her arm and the doctor pressed 2 fingers gently just under her left breast, and Clara made a noise she didn't know she was capable of making. "Ah," the doctor said softly, as I thought. "What is it?" "You were struck more than once, Miss Bennet. I was... No, sir. He only hit my face." "No, Miss Bennet. You were struck again when you fell into the edge of the booth. You did not feel it because you were already feeling something else. It is only cracked. It is not broken. You will be sore for some weeks, but you will be all right." She stared at the ceiling and did not say anything. Halford had hit her twice. She had not even known. The doctor wrapped a thin bandage around her ribs. He left a bottle of pills on the nightstand. He told Rosa, in a language Clara did not speak, a single short sentence, and Rosa nodded once and he closed the door behind him. "What did he say?" Clara whispered. "He said, 'You are a very brave young woman.'" Clara laughed one sharp, broken laugh. "I'm not brave, Miss Bennet," Rosa said, her hand still on her back. "Brave is not what people feel. Brave is what people do when they are afraid. You know this. You just did it tonight." The door opened one more, Sandro. It was the older brother, Vincenzo. Rosa stood up immediately. "Don Vincenzo, the doctor has said she is to rest. She..." 2 minutes, Rosa. Don Alessandro said she is not to be. 2 minutes. Rosa looked at him, then at Clara, and then very slowly she stepped out of the room. She left the door open. Vincenzo Moretti sat down in the chair the doctor had left. He did not say anything for a moment. He just looked at her. Really looked. Her knotted back hair, her restaurant blouse with a spot of blood on the collar, her honest, plain, frightened, tired face. "Miss Bennet, my brother does not bring strangers into this house. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes, sir. In 40 years I have never seen him do it. Not once." "Yes, sir. So, I have to ask you a question, and I have to ask it only once, and you have to tell me the truth. Did you know who that child was when you stepped in front of that man tonight?" "No, sir." "Did you know who his father was?" "No, sir." "Had you ever seen the boy before tonight?" "No, sir. I served him orange juice. That was the first time I saw him." Vincenzo watched her face for a long moment. Whatever he was looking for, he seemed to find. His shoulders came down half an inch. "All right," he said. "Sir, yes. May I ask a question?" "You may ask. I may not answer." "The man Halford, my boss, Mr. Russo, called him a regular, sir. He has been coming into my restaurant for months. He always sat at the bar. He always paid cash. I thought he was just, a drunk regular." Her throat was dry, blink. "No, Miss Bennet. What was he, sir?" "Marcus Halford was a man who has been paid for the last 6 weeks to find my nephew." The room went small around her. Six weeks? "He did not find him by accident tonight, Miss Bennet." But my restaurant, that was my restaurant. I have worked there 3 years." Your restaurant is 4 blocks from the school my brother's son attends, Miss Bennet. Mr. Halford has been eating at that bar every Tuesday for 6 weeks because Luca's tutor takes him to dinner on Tuesdays at a different restaurant on that same street. And tonight his tutor did not show up. Luca was meant to be picked up at 6:30. He was not. And a drunk man he had never met walked him into Benedetto's, told him his father was already there, and put him in a booth and went to the bathroom. Clara put her hand over her mouth. "No, yes, he was. He was going to walk that child out of the back door of your restaurant at 7:15 tonight, Miss Bennet, and he would have succeeded. He had a car waiting behind the building. He had 2 other men in that car, and if he had gotten Luca into that car, my nephew would not have come home." "Oh my God, yes, oh my God. I didn't..." You did, Miss Bennett, the point. You were not supposed to. No one was supposed to. He chose that restaurant because he had watched the staff for 6 weeks and decided that the waitress on the Tuesday shift would not ask questions. He chose you, Miss Bennett, because he thought you were a woman who would look at a drunk man and a crying child and keep walking. She could not speak. He was wrong, Vincenzo Moretti said quietly. And you do not yet understand how wrong he was or what it will cost him. But I will tell you this. When my brother walked into that dining room tonight, he had already been told by one of our men on the street that Luca was missing. He had been told by another 40 seconds later that Luca had been seen going into Benedetto's with a man who did not belong to us. He walked into your restaurant, Miss Bennett, expecting to find his son either dead or gone. And instead, he found his son's head against a waitress's arm. Vincenzo's eyes were wet. He did not seem to know it. You will not fully understand, Miss Bennett, what you did tonight. Perhaps you never will, but this house will understand it. Every man under this roof, every man in this family, from the oldest to the youngest. Tonight, you became something to us that does not have a word in English. He stood up. Now rest. My brother will speak with you in the morning. Sir, yes, please. My cat, my apartment. I have a cat named Marbles. There is a key under the mat. Vincenzo Moretti looked at her for a long second, and then for the first time since he had stepped into the hallway downstairs, he actually smiled. It was not much of a smile, but it was a real one. Miss Bennett, Marbles will be in this house by morning. Sir, sleep. He closed the door behind him with a click, so soft she almost didn't hear it, and Clara Bennett, 26 years old, shy waitress, lay back on a pillow that smelled of lavender, and tried to breathe around the cracked rib in her side. And she thought about a little boy being walked out of the back door of her own restaurant at 7:15 at night. She thought about how close she had come to watching him leave. She thought about the pink mark on his jaw and the buttoned coat, and the little fingers that had grabbed the hem of her apron under the table, and the one word he had whispered in a language she did not speak, per favor. And she understood finally the thing she had felt when he'd said it. He had been asking her to save his life, and she had. She, Clara Bennett, honey-colored hair, mason jar of tips, 2 black uniforms, a girl who had never raised her voice. She lay in the dark of the blue room and stared at the ceiling. And somewhere far down the long hallway she heard a door open and close, and a low voice speaking in Italian, and the quiet rise and fall of a man who was speaking to his son, in the dark, in the way men speak to sleeping children. And Clara Bennett began very quietly to cry again, not from fear this time, and not from pain, but from something she would not have been able to name until that moment. She was not invisible anymore, and somewhere very far, under the fear of what that meant, something in her was glad. Clara Bennett woke up because something warm was sitting on her chest. For a full second, she did not know where she was. The pillow smelled like lavender and not like her pillow. The ceiling was too high. The light, coming through the curtains, was the wrong color of gold. And then the warm thing on her chest pressed its small wet nose against her chin, and a familiar raspy purr started up right next to her ear, and Clara's whole body seized up with relief. Marbles, she whispered. The gray tabby blinked at her slowly, the way he always did, like he was unimpressed with her for sleeping so long. There was a new collar around his neck, soft black leather, a tiny silver tag that read in neat block letters, Marbles Bennett, the Moretti estate. She put both hands over her face and made a noise that was half laugh, half sob. A soft knock came at the door. Miss, come in, Rosa. Rosa stepped in with another tray, fresh clothes folded in a stack, tea, 2 pieces of buttered toast, a small dish of something orange. Her iron gray eyes went first to the cat, then to Clara's face, and she nodded once as if the cat had confirmed something she'd been waiting to see. He came at 4 a.m. Carlo carried him up himself. He would not go to anyone else. He has never liked anyone. He liked your door, Miss Bennett. He sat in front of it for 40 minutes. Finally, Carlo opened it and he walked in and jumped onto the bed and didn't move. Clara sat up slowly. Her ribs screamed and she made a face. The doctor said you would hurt today. He said, the second day is worse than the first. Drink the tea. There is a pill on the saucer. Take it only if you need it. Rosa? Yes, Miss Bennett. Where is Luca? In his room. He has been asking about you since 6 o'clock this morning. I have told him 4 times that you are asleep. Clara felt that same crack in her chest she had felt in the car last night. Can I see him? You can do anything you like in this house, Miss Bennett. That is what I came to tell you. Rosa smiled then, a small, careful old smile, and set the tray on the nightstand and left. Clara drank half the tea. She did not take the pill. She washed her face with warm water from the bowl Rosa had brought, and she stared at her own face in the mirror over the dresser, and she did not recognize the woman who looked back at her. Her left cheekbone had gone the color of a plum. Her lip was split in a thin, crooked line, and her eyes were not the eyes of Clara Bennett from Fulton Street. They were the eyes of someone who had been up all night learning a new thing about herself. She put on the dress Rosa had left. It was dark green, long sleeve, simple, soft. It fit her as if someone had been in this room 3 hours ago with a tape measure. She did not want to think about how that was possible. Marbles followed her out the door. She did not get 10 steps down the hallway before she heard small running feet behind her, and Luca Moretti appeared at her hip like he had materialized out of the wall. He was in pajamas. His dark curls were flattened on one side from the pillow. He did not say a word. He just grabbed her hand and held on. And then he looked up at her with those huge dark eyes and said in careful English, "You are still here." "Yes, honey. I'm still here. You were not a dream." "No, sweetheart. I wasn't a dream. Papa said you might leave. I haven't left yet. Don't leave." She crouched down, which hurt, and she put both of her hands around his small face. "Luca, look at me. Okay, I'm not going anywhere today. Today only? Oh, today. Today for sure. And tomorrow? We'll see about tomorrow." Okay, he thought about that. He was a child who thought about things. Finally, he nodded very solemnly, as if he had accepted a contract. Then he took her hand again. "Breakfast is downstairs. Papa's already there, so is Uncle Vincenzo. He makes a face. Don't mind him. Your uncle, he makes a face about everything." Clara almost laughed, and the laugh hurt her ribs. They walked down the long staircase together, the small boy and the shy waitress, and the gray tabby cat. And halfway down, Clara realized she was about to walk into a dining room full of men who ran a part of the city she had never been invited into. And she stopped for a second on the stairs and tried to catch her breath. Luca felt her stop. He looked up. "It is okay," he said quietly. "If they are rude, I will leave with you." She looked down at this 8-year-old child. "You promise?" "I promise." And somehow that was what carried her the rest of the way down the stairs. The dining room went quiet when she entered. 6 men at a long table. Coffee cups, a folded newspaper, a phone face down next to one plate, Alessandro at the head, Vincenzo at his right hand, 4 other men she had never seen. They all stopped chewing at exactly the same moment, like they had practiced it. Alessandro stood up. "Miss Bennett, good morning, please." He pulled out the chair next to his own, not across from him, next to him. Vincenzo's eyes went to the chair and then to his brother, and he did not say anything, but he put his fork down. Clara sat. Luca climbed into the chair on her other side without being asked, and Alessandro did not correct him. "How is your face this morning, Miss Bennett?" "Sore, sir, and your ribs also sore. You are not taking the pills the doctor left you." She blinked. "The housekeeper?" A very small smile, I asked. "Please take them today. You have nothing to prove here by hurting." "Yes, sir." One of the men at the far end of the table, a heavy-set man in his 60s with a crooked nose, sat down his coffee cup. "Don Alessandro, with respect. Are we going to talk about the business, or are we going to eat breakfast?" "We are going to eat breakfast, Matteo, in front of Miss Bennett and in front of my son." "Don Alessandro, Matteo." "Don Alessandro. What happened last night will be discussed after breakfast in my office, with the people who need to discuss it. Miss Bennett is a guest. Luca is a child. Please pass the salt." The man called Matteo passed the salt. He did not take his eyes off Clara while he did it. She ate 2 bites of toast and drank her tea. And she answered the 3 polite questions Alessandro asked her about her apartment, about her mother, about how she had come to work at Benedetto's. She answered them carefully. Every man in the room was listening. She knew it, and she also knew that this, whatever this was a kind of test. She told them the true answers. Her mother had died of cancer 5 years ago. Her father had left when she was 9. She had moved to the city at 19 with $400, a backpack and a cat that was not yet named Marbles. She had worked at Benedetto's for 3 years. Before that, a diner on 9th. Before that, a coffee shop that had closed. She had never been in trouble with the police. She had never even had a parking ticket. She did not have a boyfriend. She did not have brothers or sisters. She realized as she was saying it, entirely alone in the world. The room was very quiet by the time she stopped talking. "Matteo," said it. Man sat down on his coffee again. "No one else, sir." You have no one else, is that right?" "Yes, sir." "Nobody who calls you every Sunday?" "No, sir." "Nobody who will come looking for you if you do not go home for a week?" Clara felt something small and scared move inside her chest. "Sir, is that a question, or is that a—" "It is a question, Miss Bennett." "Then no, sir. There's nobody." Matteo looked at Alessandro. He did not say anything, he only looked. Alessandro looked back, and a whole second silent conversation passed between the two of them across the table. And Clara understood that something had just been decided about her, and she did not understand what. Then Alessandro turned to her. "Miss Bennett, would you please finish your breakfast? After that, if you are willing, I would like to speak with you in my office." "Yes, sir. Luca, go with Rosa. You have your lessons." "Papa, I want lessons, Luca." "Papa, just one, Luca." The boy slid out of his chair. At the door, he looked back at Clara once. She nodded at him. He nodded back, and then he was gone. Alessandro's office was a room with dark wood and one enormous window. He closed the door. He gestured to a chair. Clara sat. He sat behind the desk, and he did not say anything for a long moment. He only looked at her. "Miss Bennett." "Yes, sir. Last night my brother told you certain things about Mr. Halford. Do you remember them?" "Yes, sir. Every word." "Good, because this morning I have more to tell you. And some of what I will tell you, you will wish you had not heard. If at any point you want me to stop, you will say stop, and I will stop. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." He opened a drawer. He took out a photograph. He slid it across the desk. It was a picture of a woman. Dark hair, a face that was half laughing at whoever was taking the picture. She was very young. She was holding a baby. "Who is this, sir?" "My wife." Clara looked up sharply. "Sir, her name was Elena. The baby is Luca." The photograph is from the month before she was killed. Clara's whole body. When? 7 years ago. How? A car bomb intended for me. She took Luca out to the car first. I was 1 minute behind her. A pause. I have not told many people this, Miss Bennett. You deserve to know it because of what you did last night. Luca does not remember his mother. He knows her face from this photograph. He does not know how she died. He believes she was sick. He will learn the truth when he is old enough to carry it. Not a day before, sir, Clara whispered. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Miss Bennett. Who did it? A man named Rocco Santoro. He was at the time a rival. He is no longer a rival? No longer, Miss Bennett. She did not ask what that meant. Alessandro folded his hands on the desk. Rocco Santoro had a younger brother. The brother was 19 at the time. Too young to be involved in the work. Too young to be a target. He was not harmed. He was left alive. It was, I believe, then the merciful thing to do. I was wrong. Sir, that brother is now 34 years old. His name is Andrea Santoro. For 15 years he has waited. He did not inherit his brother's men, or his brother's territory, or his brother's ability. He inherited only his brother's grudge, and 6 weeks ago, Miss Bennett, he decided to use it. Clara put her hand over her mouth. Halford. Marcus Halford was hired by Andrea Santoro to take my son. Oh my God. He was paid $40,000 for the first attempt. He was promised $200,000 more upon delivery. He believed he was going to be a wealthy man by the end of last night. What? What would they have? They would have sent me a video, Miss Bennett, of my son, and they would have asked for something in return. What? Alessandro did not answer for a moment. His hands had not moved. His face had not moved, but something was happening behind his eyes, and Clara could almost feel the room get colder from it. They would have asked for me, Miss Bennett. They would have said, your son for you. Walk into a place we choose alone and we return him. That is what they would have asked. And you would have... I would have gone. Yes, sir. Yes, they would have killed you. Yes, Miss Bennett. And then they would have killed Luca anyway. He looked at her for a long second. Yes, probably. Yes. Clara sat very still in her chair. She realized somewhere far down in her body that her hands were shaking again. She put them flat on the desk to stop them. Sir, she said, why are you telling me this? Because, Miss Bennett, you walked into the middle of this last night without any idea what you were walking into, and you deserve to know what you saved and what is still happening. Still happening, sir? Andrea Santoro did not get Luca last night. He will try again, Miss Bennett. He has waited 15 years. He will not stop because one attempt failed. He will try again within a week. Sir, what are you— There was a knock at the door, sharp 3 times. Alessandro's head lifted 1 inch. Yes. The door opened. Vincenzo. His face had gone the color of old paper. Alessandro. Yes, the hospital called. Which hospital? St. Luke. Mr. Halford was brought in at 6 o'clock this morning. Clara's heart stopped. Alive, she whispered before she could stop herself. Vincenzo's eyes moved to her. He answered her anyway. Alive, Miss Bennett. But someone got to him before we could. Alessandro stood up very slowly. Someone got to him? He was dropped at the emergency room at 6:04. 3 men in a black van. They did not wait. He has a broken jaw and 2 broken hands, and he is missing the little finger of his left hand. That is not our work. I know it is not our work. Alessandro, is he talking? He is asking for protective custody. He is asking for the FBI. He is saying he will tell them everything he knows about everyone if they keep him alive until the end of the week. Alessandro was completely still for a long moment. Santoro got to him first. Yes, Santoro is cleaning his own trail. Yes. Before Halford can be questioned by anyone who would know what questions to ask. Yes, Vincenzo's eyes moved to Clara again. And Miss Bennett. Yes, Vincenzo? Halford gave the hospital a name before he passed out. He said one name. He said the person who saved the boy last night. He said her full name. He said the name of the restaurant where she works. He said which shift she takes. The room tilted. Sir, Clara whispered. Alessandro was not looking at her. He was looking at his brother, and his face had finally changed. The still, calm mask was gone, and what was under it was not calm at all. It was something she had seen for half a breath in the car last night, and had hoped she would never see again. How many people know about the hospital? The nurse who admitted him, 2 doctors, a police officer on the desks, possibly his handler at the bureau by now. How long until Santoro knows Halford talked? An hour, maybe 2. He has someone inside that hospital. He always has someone inside. Then we have 2 hours. Vincenzo, yes. And after that, he will know Miss Bennett's name, and her face and her address and the name of her cat. Yes, and her mother's grave, Vincenzo added quietly. He finds everything, Alessandro. Clara stood up without meaning to. Her ribs screamed. She did not feel them. What? Miss Bennett, yes, sir. Sit down, please. Sir, sit down, please, Miss Bennett. She sat. Alessandro Moretti put his hands flat on the desk in front of him. She saw for the first time that his hands were shaking. A very small tremor. Almost nothing, but it was there. He saw her see it. He did not try to hide it. Miss Bennett, he said quietly, last night, I told you that tonight you belonged where I put you. I told you we would speak about tomorrow in the morning. Yes, sir. It is morning, and tomorrow has become a different question than the one I thought it was going to be. Yes, sir. Andrea Santoro now knows you exist. Within 2 hours, he will know everything about you. Within 24, he will have sent people to your apartment on Fulton Street. Within 48, he will have decided whether you are a loose end, or an opportunity, or both. Her mouth was dry. Sir, yes, what are my options? He looked at her with something very gentle in his eyes. Your options, Miss Bennet, are as follows. You may leave this house this morning. I will give you money. I will give you a car and a driver. I will send you to a small town in a different state, where nobody will look for you because nobody will know to. And you will live quietly there under a different name for the rest of your life. You will never come back to the city. You will never see my son again. You will never hear from me. That is option 1. She could not breathe. Option 2, Miss Bennet, you stay here in this house under my protection. You do not leave the grounds until Andrea Santoro is no longer a problem. You become formally a person this family is responsible for. This means things I cannot yet fully explain to you. It means, in the language of my world, you become someone Andrea Santoro cannot touch without starting a war he cannot survive. It also means you will not have a normal life again, Miss Bennet. Not ever. There is no door that leads back to Fulton Street from this choice. Do you understand? She nodded. She could not speak. Take a moment, please, sir, I will take a moment. She sat in the quiet of his office with her cracked rib, her bruised face, and her gray cat sitting in the hallway outside the door. She thought about her mason jar of tips, her 2 black uniforms, and her small, leaking ceiling in the studio apartment above the laundromat on Fulton Street. She thought about option 1. A small town, a different name, a quiet kitchen. Nobody to hit her, nobody to hunt her, nobody who needed her. And then she thought about Luca Moretti's small voice at the top of the stairs this morning saying, "Don't leave." She thought about his fingers and hers under the table of a booth in Benedetto's, whispering, "Per favor." She thought about a little boy who had been walked toward the back door of her own restaurant at 7:15 last night by a man who had been paid $40,000. And she thought about how somewhere in the city right now, that man's employer was sitting in a room deciding whether she was a loose end. Clara Bennett, 26 years old, shy waitress girl, who had never raised her voice in her life, lifted her face and looked Alessandro Moretti in the eye. "Sir," she said. "Yes, Miss Bennet, I don't want option 1. There was a silence in the room that felt like standing at the edge of a very high cliff. "Miss Bennet, yes, sir, you understand what you are choosing?" "No, sir, I don't, sir. Not all the way. But I understand one thing." "What do you understand?" "I understand that if I get in that car and drive to a small town, and Andrea Santoro tries again next week, and he gets Luca this time, I will know. I'll know, sir, for the rest of my life, in that small town, washing dishes. I'll know that the little boy who fell asleep on my arm last night is dead because I got in a car and drove away from him." Her voice was shaking. She did not try to hide it. "So no, sir. No, I'm not going to a small town." Alessandro Moretti did not answer for a very long moment. Then very quietly he stood up. He walked around his desk. He stopped in front of her chair, and he did something Clara Bennett would remember for as long as she lived. He bent his head just once, a very small formal bow like he had done last night at her door. "Exactly the same. Miss Bennet," he said softly, "welcome to my family." And somewhere outside past the iron gates, in a city she no longer lived in, a phone rang in a room she had never been in, and a man she had never met, a man whose brother she had never heard of, whose grudge was older than she was, picked it up and listened, and finally, very slowly, began to smile. Alessandro did not sit back down behind his desk. He stayed standing in front of her chair, and for a full 5 seconds he did not move, did not speak, did not do anything except look at her the way a man looks at a door he has just agreed to walk through. "Vincenzo," he said finally without turning around. "Yes, Alessandro. Call Matteo back. Call Carlo. Call every man on the list. I want every one of them here by noon." "Yes, Miss Bennet is now on the list." Clara heard the older brother exhale slowly. "Understood the full list, Alessandro. The full list, Vincenzo. She is my son's shield. She will be treated as mine." Vincenzo was silent for a long moment, then as you say. The door clicked shut. Alessandro finally sat down on the edge of his desk, facing her. He was close enough that Clara could see a small scar at the edge of his jaw she hadn't noticed last night. His hand, she noticed, had stopped shaking. "Miss Bennet, I have to tell you some hard things now. Are you ready?" "Yes, sir." "No, you are not. But I am going to tell you anyway, because you have a right to know what you have just agreed to." She swallowed. "Yes, sir. First, from this moment forward, you do not walk to the gate. You do not walk to the gate even to look at it. You do not stand near a window that faces the street. You do not step outside the front door without a man named Carlo at your shoulder. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Second, you do not make phone calls from any phone that is not given to you by this house. You do not email. You do not open a web browser. You do not answer a knock at your own bedroom door without asking who it is first, even if it is Rosa, especially if it is a voice you think you know." "Yes, sir." "Third, and this one is the hardest, Miss Bennet." "Yes, sir. If someone in this house tells you to run, you run. If someone tells you to get in a car, you get in a car. If someone tells you to lie on the floor, you lie on the floor, and you do not lift your head until the person who told you to do it comes back and tells you to stand up. You do not second guess. You do not hesitate. Even if the person giving you the instruction is me, And you think I am wrong, you do it anyway. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Say it back to me, please, in your own words. If I'm told to run, I run. If I'm told to get in a car, I get in. If I'm told to get down, I get down. I don't ask questions, not even if it's you. Thank you, Miss Bennett. He did not say good. He said thank you. It surprised her. Sir. She said, may I ask a question now? You may. You said a few minutes ago Santoro has someone in the hospital. A man on the inside. You said he always has someone on the inside. Yes. Does that mean he has someone here? Alessandro Moretti's eyes did not blink. He looked at her for a long second. That is a very good question, Miss Bennison. Sir? The answer is, I believe he does not. I believe I would know. But in 15 years of careful patience, Andrea Santoro has done many things I did not think he could do, so I do not know. And until I do, I will treat this house as if there is a crack in it somewhere. So should you. Her hand, without her permission, moved to the edge of the desk to steady herself. Sir, yes. I don't know how to tell who. I know. That is why I am telling you not to trust anyone, not even the people you like. That includes Rosa, Miss Bennett. I do not believe it is Rosa, but until I can say I know, you behave as if it could be. Yes, sir. One more thing. Yes, sir. Luca is not to be alone, not for 1 minute, not even for the bathroom. If Rosa takes him, you go with them. If he goes to his tutor, you go with him. He sleeps in a locked room tonight, and the 2 people with the key are me and you. Are you willing to carry a key? Yes, sir. Good. He stood up. He walked around the desk. He picked up a phone. He did not dial yet. Miss Bennett, and then I will let you go upstairs. Yes, sir. The restaurant, Benedetto's. How well do you know the owner? Mr. Russo. I not well, sir. He hired me 3 years ago. He pays cash. He is not a warm man, but he has never been cruel to me. He is not a Moretti man. No, sir. I don't think so. I don't think he is anyone's man. He is just a manager. The restaurant, Miss Bennett, who owns the restaurant. I always just paid attention to Mr. Russo. I think the name on the checks was a corporation, a holding company. The holding company is called Verde Holdings. Yes, sir. Yes, that sounds right. Verde Holdings is owned by a man named Enzo Verde. Enzo Verde was a cousin of Rocco Santoro. The room tilted. Sir, Mr. Russo did not know Miss Bennett. I am almost certain of that. He is, as you say, only a manager, but the building, the restaurant, the bar where Marcus Halford sat for 6 Tuesdays in a row, was owned by a man with a connection, however distant, to the family who killed my wife. Halford did not wander into your restaurant by chance. He was sent there. He was comfortable there. And the staff he observed for 6 weeks, including you, was staff that had been hired through 2 layers of shell companies by a man whose last name is Verde. Clara felt the blood leave her face. My job, yes, Miss Bennett. You are telling me that my job for the last 3 years was, I am telling you it is possible. I am not yet telling you it is certain. Oh my God. Miss Bennett, breathe. Okay? Oh my God. I have been serving. Breathe, Miss Bennett. Please sit down. She sat down. She did not remember standing up. Alessandro put the phone back in its cradle. He crossed the room in 2 steps. He crouched down exactly the way he had crouched in front of his son last night in the booth, so that his eyes were level with hers. Miss Bennett, listen to me. You did not know, sir. You did not know. You served drinks to men. You took orders from a manager. You went home with your tips in a mason jar. You did not know. Nobody is angry with you. Do you hear me? Yes, sir. Good. He stood up. He put one hand very briefly on her shoulder. It was the first time he had touched her. She just didn't reset. Then he stepped back. Go upstairs. Rest for 1 hour. Take the pill the doctor left you. Eat something. When you are ready, come find Luca. He is in the library on the 2nd floor with his tutor. His tutor's name is Sonora Canti. She is 61 years old, and she is one of 2 people in this house I would trust with my own life. The other is Rosa, so today at least you will be in a room with one of them at all times. All right? Yes, sir. Miss Bennett, yes, sir. I am very sorry. For what, sir? For the fact that you walked into that restaurant last night, and the life you have walked out of is already not the one you thought you had. She could not answer that. She just nodded once and walked out of the office with her hand on the wall. In the hallway, Marbles was sitting exactly where she had left him, as if he had been guarding the door. He looked at her with a slow, unimpressed blink, and then he fell into step beside her. Clara made it halfway up the staircase before her legs gave out and she had to sit down on a step. Marbles sat on the step below her, looking up. Okay, she whispered to him. Okay, Marbles, okay. She sat there for 4 minutes breathing. Nobody disturbed her. When she finally stood up, she was not Clara Bennett, the shy waitress anymore. She didn't know yet who she was instead, but she knew she was not that. She went to find Luca. The library was on the 2nd floor and she heard the child before she saw him. He was reading out loud slowly in English about a rabbit who wanted to go home. Sonora Conti's voice corrected him gently every few words. When Clara appeared in the doorway, Luca stopped mid-sentence, slid off his carved chair and ran to her. You didn't leave. I told you I wouldn't. Not today. Papa said you might stay longer than today. She crouched down. Did he? He said you were going to be with us for a while. He said I have to mind my manners with you because you are a lady in our house now. Clara felt tears rise in her eyes and she blinked them back hard. Well, I'll try to earn it, honey. You already did. Sonora Canti cleared her throat gently from the desk. She was a small, gray-haired woman with kind eyes and a wedding ring on a chain around her neck. Signorina, come and sit with us. Luca is reading about a rabbit. Clara sat. She listened to a child she had known for 15 hours. Read about a rabbit who wanted to go home. And she thought, with a clarity that surprised her, that she could spend the rest of her life in this room and not regret a second of it. The hour passed, then another. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Rosa came to the library door and said, Miss Bennet, Don Alessandro would like to see you. Of course, and Luca. Clara looked at her. Luca? Yes, Miss Bennet, both of you. In the garden. They walked down the stairs and through the hallway and out through a pair of French doors into a small, enclosed courtyard that Clara had not seen before. Alessandro was there, and he was not alone. There were 2 men standing slightly behind him. One of them was Vincenzo. The other she did not recognize. He was young, maybe 28, maybe 30, with thick, dark hair, dark eyes, and a jaw that looked like it had been broken once and set wrong. He was holding a jacket over his arm. He was not looking at her. Miss Bennet, Alessandro said. Luca, please come. I want to introduce you to someone. The young man finally lifted his eyes and he looked at Clara just for 1 second, with an expression that made every small hair on the back of her neck stand up. It was not hatred. It was not anger. It was recognition. Miss Bennet, Alessandro said, this is my nephew, my late brother's son. His name is Dario Moretti. He has just arrived from Sicily. He will be staying with us for some time. Pleased to meet you, Miss Bennet. Dario said in an accent that was almost perfect English. Almost. Pleased to meet you too, Clara said carefully. She did not trust him. She didn't know why. She only knew that the moment he had looked at her, something under her ribs had rung like a bell, the same way it had rung last night when she had looked at the pink mark on Luca's jaw. She smiled politely. She made polite conversation. Dario was charming. He asked about her face. He apologized on behalf of the family for what she had been through. He crouched down to greet Luca. Luca was shy with him, the way he was shy with everyone, and let himself be hugged without actually hugging back. The whole thing lasted 4 minutes. When Dario went inside with Vincenzo to get settled, Alessandro stayed behind with Clara and Luca, and Clara waited until the French doors closed. Sir, yes, Miss Bennet. Did your nephew arrive today? Yes. From Sicily? Yes. When did he leave Sicily? Alessandro went very still. What are you asking, Miss Bennet? I'm asking if he left yesterday, or if he left 2 days ago, or a week ago. He left Sicily 6 days ago. He flew into Boston 4 days ago. He drove down and he arrived here today. Yes, today specifically, Miss Bennet. Sir, Alessandro was looking at her with a face she had not yet seen him wear. Not calm, not still, something almost curious. What are you feeling, Miss Bennet? I don't know, sir. I don't like him. That is a feeling, Miss Bennet. That is not a reason. No, sir. Do you have a reason? No, sir, I don't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Don't apologize. In this house, Miss Bennet, we pay attention to the feelings of the women who have no reason to lie to us. Rosa taught me that. My wife taught me that. You do not have a reason yet, that does not mean you are wrong. He paused. Watch him, Miss Bennet. Please carefully, do not confront him, do not speak to him alone, but watch him. Will you do that for me? Yes, sir, thank you. He turned his face to the sky for a second, then back to her. Miss Bennet. Yes, sir, there is something else. I have been waiting for the right moment to tell you. There is no right moment, so I will tell you now. Your apartment on Fulton Street. We sent 2 men to collect your things at 3 o'clock this morning. They went inside. They brought marbles out. They also brought out your mason jar, and your photographs, and your clothes. They left at 3:42. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. At 4:15, 2 men they did not know came up the stairs. Not police, not anyone we have ever seen before. They had a bump key. They entered your apartment. They were inside for 11 minutes. Then they left. Clara went very still. Our men were across the street, in a van with a camera. We have their faces. We do not yet have their names. What were they looking for, sir? They were looking for you, Miss Bennet. They were looking for you at 4:15 in the morning. 8 hours after you put yourself between a drunk man and my son. 8 hours, Miss Bennet. That is how fast Andrea Santoro moves. She could not speak. I am telling you this not to frighten you. You are already frightened. I am telling you this so that you understand the size of what we are dealing with, and so that you understand that option 1, the small town, the different name, was not going to work the way I described it to you this morning. I said it to you honestly, but I was perhaps optimistic. He found your apartment in 8 hours. He would have found your small town in a week. Sir, Mrs. Delgado across the hall. She has 2 little kids. If those men, they did not knock on Mrs. Delgado's door. They only went into yours. Oh, thank God. Thank God. You were not thinking about Mrs. Delgado when you stepped in front of Miss Bennet. No, sir, but you are thinking about her now, even with your own face in front of a man like Santoro. That is a thing I notice. She didn't know what to say. He turned to his son. The boy came over. Alessandro crouched down. Luca, I need to tell you something. Listen carefully. Yes, Paspa, there is a man. He is a bad man. He is the reason Mama is not here anymore. The child's face went still. Papa, I know, Piccolino, I have not told you this before because you were too small. You are still too small. But this man, the same bad man, is the reason that the drunk man tried to take you last night. Do you understand? Yes, Papa. He is going to try again. Papa, I know, Luca. Look at me. Look at Papa. Miss Clara is going to help me make sure he does not get you. Miss Clara is going to be with you every hour. Every single hour until this is finished. Do you understand what I am asking of her? The boy looked at Clara. His face was a face that no 8-year-old should have been wearing. Yes, Papa. And do you trust her? Yes, Papa. Why? Because last night she stood up when everyone else sat down. Alessandro Moretti was quiet for a very long second. He put one hand on his son's cheek. His hand stayed there. Yes, Luca, he said softly. Why? He stood up. She did not know until she saw his face that he had been holding something back for the last 16 hours. She saw it now. It was not fear. It was not grief. It was something older. A kind of hard, patient hope that she hadn't known could live on a face like his. Miss Bennet, he said, thank you. For what, sir? For saying no to the small town. She almost laughed, and the laugh hurt her ribs. And she put a hand on her side and said very quietly, Sir, I wasn't going to say anything else. Clara did not sleep that night. Not really. She lay in the blue room with marbles tucked against her bruised ribs, and every time she almost drifted off, she saw Dario Moretti's face in the half-second. He had looked at her in the courtyard, that flicker of recognition like a man checking a photograph against a stranger and finding a match. She got out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and sat in the armchair by the window, fully dressed with her back to the wall and her eyes on the door. She did not know what she was waiting for. She only knew she was waiting. At 4:12, she heard a footstep in the hallway. It stopped outside her door. She did not breathe. A single soft knock. Miss Bennet, it's Rosa. Clara did not move. She did not answer. Miss Bennet, Piccolina, are you awake? I brought you warm milk. Everything Alessandro had told her that afternoon went through her head at once. Especially, a voice you think you know. Rosa? Clara said carefully through the door. Which room did you put marbles in yesterday morning? A tiny pause, just a tiny one. Then the blue room, Miss Bennet. He came at 4 with Carlo. He had a new collar. Clara closed her eyes, breathed out, got up, opened the door. Rosa was standing there with a small tray, her face soft and tired. I am sorry. I did not mean to frighten you. I could not sleep either. Come in, Rosa. The old woman set the tray down and sat in the chair across from Clara. Her old gray eyes went once to the door, then back. Miss Bennet, I am not supposed to be telling you this. Clara's heart stopped. Telling me what? Don Alessandro did not tell you everything he knows about Dario. Rosa, Piccolina, listen. I have raised these men since they were boys. I raised Alessandro. I raised their brother Paolo. Paolo was the oldest. Paolo was Dario's father. Yes, Paolo died 11 years ago, a heart attack in his own bed, a natural death. His family did not have many of those. Yes, Rosa. But Paolo had a wife before Dario's mother, a first wife, very young, very beautiful. The family did not approve of her. She was from the wrong town, the wrong family. Clara's hands went cold. Rosa, what family? The old woman looked at her. She was a Santoro, Miss Bennet. The room tilted. She was Rocco Santoro's younger sister. Oh God. She died in childbirth. The child died with her. It was 34 years ago. Nobody in this house ever speaks of her. Nobody. Paolo remarried 2 years later. That second wife gave him Dario. That is the wife everyone remembers. The first wife, Paolo had her name removed from every photograph in this house before he died. Clara put her hand over her mouth. Rosa, why are you telling me this? Because Dario is 30 years old, Miss Bennet, and Andrea Santoro is 34. Rosa, they are the same age, Piccolina, almost. They grew up in the same village. Dario spent every summer in Sicily as a boy with his grandmother. That grandmother's house was 3 doors down from the house where Andrea Santoro grew up. Oh my God. Alessandro knows this. Vincenzo knows this. But they have decided among themselves that Dario is loyal. He has always seemed loyal. He came when his uncle called. He has never given them a reason. And you don't believe that, Piccolina. I have been in this house for 46 years. I have never in my life said the word no to a thing Don Alessandro believed. Last night, for the first time, I came to Don Alessandro and I said, Don Alessandro, not this one, not this boy. And Don Alessandro said to me, Rosa, I love you, but you do not understand how men work. And I told him I understand better than he thinks. And he patted my shoulder, Miss Bennet, the way he patted yours. And he told me to go to bed. Clara stood up. Rosa, I have to tell him. He will not listen to you, Miss Bennet, not at 4 in the morning. He will tell you you are frightened. Then I'll wait until... No, you will not wait because Dario left the estate at 2 o'clock this morning. Clara froze. He left? He told the guard at the side gate that he was going for a drive. He could not sleep. He said the air in the house was too warm. He took one of the cars. He has not come back. I know, Piccolina, I know. Why didn't the guard... The guard called Vincenzo at 2:15. Vincenzo said, let him go. Vincenzo said, he is family. Let him breathe. Oh my God. I waited, Miss Bennet. I waited 1 hour. Then I thought, if this boy is what I think he is going to a phone. And if he is going to a phone, he has already used it. And if he has already used it, I must tell someone. I could not tell Vincenzo. Vincenzo just told the guard to let him go. I could not tell Don Alessandro alone. He will dismiss an old woman. I needed a witness. I needed a witness whose feelings he trusts. The old gray eyes held hers. He told me yesterday afternoon to trust you. He said if Rosa sees something, Rosa must tell Miss Bennet, and Miss Bennet must tell me. Clara was already out of the door. Go wake him, Rosa. Go now. I will get Luca, Miss Bennet. Now, Rosa. She was in the hallway in 3 strides. Luca's room was at the end of the corridor. Clara ran. Ribs be damned, she ran and her key was in the door, before she even remembered taking it out of her pocket. The door swung open. Luca was asleep in the middle of the big bed with his arms around a stuffed bear. Luca, honey, wake up. Clara, I need you to wake up, sweetheart. Right now. Get up. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. Put on your shoes, honey. Not your slippers, real shoes. He did not ask why. This was a boy who had already learned at 8 not to ask why. He climbed out of the bed and put on the sneakers beside it and reached for her hand. The hallway light went out. Every light at the same time, the whole house. Clara's heart stopped. Clara, shh. Honey, hold my hand. Don't let go. Down the hall a door was opening quietly. She heard the hinge. She knew the sound. It was the door from the servants' stairs. Somebody was in the house. Luca, she whispered. Luca, we're going to play a game, okay? We're going to be very, very quiet. And I want you to do exactly what I say. Exactly. Do you remember what your papa told you? If I am told to get down, I get down. That's right, honey. That's right. She pulled him back into his room. She closed the door. She turned the lock. She pulled him down onto the floor behind the big heavy dresser against the far wall so that their bodies could not be seen from the door. She put her mouth against his ear. Stay here. Do not make a sound. Do not move. Even if you hear my voice, even if somebody says your name. Do you understand, Clara? Do you understand? Luca Moretti. Yes, Clara. I love you, honey. Clara. And she kissed the top of his head, and she stood up in the dark, and she walked toward the door. She had no weapon. She had nothing. She was a shy waitress with a cracked rib, and 26 years of making herself small, and somewhere down the hallway were men who had come to this house tonight to take this child. She did not feel small. She stood to the side of the door with her back against the wall, and she listened. She heard a floorboard in the hallway, not Rosa. Rosa moved like smoke. This was a heavier man. Slow, careful steps, moving from door to door. She heard the doorknob of Luca's room turn. She heard it stop when it hit the lock. She heard breathing on the other side of the door. Calm breathing, not frightened, professional. And then she heard a very soft voice speak one word, Luca. In a man's voice, Dario Moretti's voice. Clara's whole body went cold. Luca Piccolino, it's cousin Dario. Papa is hurt. He sent me to come and get you. Open the door, Luca. Behind her in the dark, she felt Luca's small body jerk. Papa, shh, Clara breathed. Shh, honey, no. Luca, open the door now. Quickly, we have to go. Don't move, Clara whispered Luca. Luca, apri. His voice had changed. Just a little. Just enough. Somewhere down the hallway, somebody else was coming. More footsteps, faster ones, and then a gunshot downstairs very loud. The whole house heard it. The whole house. Clara's hand slapped over Luca's mouth before he could scream, Luca. Dario's voice was urgent now. Luca, open the door, or they will shoot your father. They will shoot Papa. Open the door. The doorknob rattled. Another shot. 2 more. A man shouting in Italian. Glass breaking. And then the most beautiful sound Clara Bennet had ever heard in her life. Alessandro Moretti's voice from the other end of the hall, very quiet and very clear, saying, Dario. The rattling at the doorknob stopped. Uncle, put the gun down, Dario. Uncle, there are men in the house. I know there are men in the house, Dario. You let them in. Put the gun down, Uncle. Dario. I am begging you, as your father's brother. Put the gun down. There was a silence. A very long silence, and then Dario Moretti started to cry. It was the worst sound Clara had ever heard. A grown man crying the way a child cries, big, open, helpless. 30 years of something coming out of his chest all at once. I had to. Uncle, you don't understand. I had to. My mother, my real mother, she was the only person who ever... You don't know what they did to her family. You don't know what they made her do. No, you don't. You don't, Uncle. You sent her away. You told Papa she was a sickness. You, Dario, put the gun down, and we will talk about your mother. I give you my word. Put it down. Uncle, Andrea is my brother, my half-brother. He found me when I was 15. He is the only one in this family who ever told me the truth about her. The only one that... Dario, put the gun down. From the stairwell, another voice. Vincenzo, hard as iron. 2, alive. 1 not. Santoro is not among them. I repeat, Santoro is not in the house. Dario, Alessandro said very quietly. Did Andrea come tonight? Silence. Did he come, Dario? He is in the car at the end of the drive. Which car? A black SUV, 2 men with him. He is waiting for me to bring Luca out. Thank you, Dario. Uncle, put the gun on the floor. Kick it toward my voice now. Clara heard something metal hit the hardwood. She heard it slide. She heard Alessandro Moretti say very gently, Tommaso, take him downstairs. Do not hurt him. He is my brother's son. Yes, Don Alessandro. And Vincenzo. Yes. Get 4 men quietly. The east gate. I want Andrea Santoro alive. That is an order. Alive, understood. There were footsteps, many footsteps. A man crying as he was walked away. Then a soft knock at Luca's door. Miss Bennet, it's me. It is safe. You can open the door. She did not open it right away. Miss Bennet, you have done the right thing. Everything. Please open the door. She unlocked it with a hand that would not stop shaking. Alessandro Moretti was on the other side. His hair was a mess. There was blood on his sleeve. Not his. He was holding his own gun loose at his side. His eyes went past her to the dresser. To the small boy crouched behind it, staring out with huge wet eyes. Luca Piccolino, it is Papa. Come here, Luca ran. He threw himself into his father's arms so hard Alessandro grunted. Alessandro picked him up, all 40 pounds of him, and did not put him down. Then he looked at Clara. Miss Bennet. Yes, sir. You kept your promise. Yes, sir. You knew, didn't you? Yesterday in the courtyard? I didn't know, sir. You knew, Miss Bennet. Whatever part of you knew, it knew. He walked into the room, his son in his arms, and he stopped in front of her, and he looked at her for a long moment with a face she had not seen him wear before. Miss Bennet, he said very quietly, I owe you my son's life twice. Sir? Twice, he repeated. She did not know what to say. Sir, she finally whispered, Rosa is safe. Rosa is downstairs making tea. Rosa saved all of us tonight. Oh, thank God, Miss Bennet. Yes, sir. Andrea Santoro is at the end of my driveway. In 30 seconds, my brother is going to walk out of the east gate and end a 15-year-old grudge. You do not need to see any of that. You do not need to hear any of it. I am asking you to take my son to Rosa and to sit with her in the kitchen and to wait. When I come back, I will come back a different man. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Can you do that for me? Yes, sir. Thank you, Miss Bennet. He set Luca down. He kissed his son on the top of the head, and he walked past her out of the room and down the hall. Clara took Luca's hand. They went downstairs. Rosa was in the kitchen, exactly as Alessandro had said. She had 2 cups of tea on the counter and 1 cup of warm milk, and her hands were shaking. And when she saw Clara and Luca walk through the door, she sat down very hard on a stool and put her face in her apron and cried. Luca climbed into her lap without being asked. He put his small arms around her neck. He said in a voice so old for a child, It is okay, Rosa. It is okay now. You were right, Rosa. You were right about him. Rosa cried harder. Clara did not sit down. She stood in the middle of the kitchen with her hands flat on the counter, and she waited. She waited a long time. Somewhere very distantly, she heard a car engine. She heard raised voices. She heard much later a single sharp sound that she told herself was a door. She kept telling herself it was a door. She did not know if it was a door. She did not ask. She did not want to know. At 5:47 in the morning, Alessandro Moretti walked back into the kitchen. He did not have blood on him this time. He had changed his shirt. His hair was wet, like he had put his whole head under water. He looked at Rosa. He looked at Luca in Rosa's lap. He looked at Clara. And then he did something Clara had never seen a man like him do in her life. He sat down on the floor of the kitchen with his back against the cabinet, and he bent his head, and he pressed both of his hands against his face. And for 1 long minute, Don Alessandro Moretti, the calmest man in the 5 boroughs, the man who had walked into a restaurant full of strangers and made the whole room stop breathing, cried. Luca slid off Rosa's lap. He walked across the kitchen in his sneakers and his pajamas. He sat down on the floor next to his father, and he put his small head against his father's shoulder. It is okay, Papa. I know, Luca. Clara did not let go? I know, Luca. She is staying, Papa, I know. Clara felt a tear run down her face. Rosa took her hand. Alessandro looked up. He looked at Clara. His eyes were red. Miss Bennet, yes, sir. Santoro is no longer a problem. Yes, sir. My nephew will face the family. Not the law, not tonight, tomorrow. He will live. I will not take my brother's son from him. Not even a brother who is already dead. Yes, sir. And Miss Bennet. Yes, sir. The house is safe. Your life is safe. You can go back to Fulton Street now if that's what you want. I will not stop you. I will give you money. I will give you a house in any town in this country, in any name you choose. That offer from yesterday, it still stands. It will always stand. He paused. But I want you to know something. I want Luca to hear me say it. I want Rosa to hear me say it. He took a breath. Clara Bennet, if you want to stay, you are not staying as family. Luca's life, Rosa's life, my life. These are yours if you want them. Not because of debt, not because of protection. Because you have already earned a place here that nobody in this house has the authority to give you or take away. She could not speak. Take your time, Miss Bennet. I don't need time. The whole kitchen went quiet. Miss Bennet. Sir, I grew up with nobody, sir. I had a mother who died and a father who left, and 26 years of apologizing to strangers for taking up space. I lived above a laundromat with a mason jar full of tips and a cat who was the only thing in the world who needed me. 2 days ago, if you had asked me what I wanted out of my whole life, I would not have been able to answer you. I did not know. I had never let myself know. She took a breath. 2 nights ago, a little boy put his hand in mine under a table. He said, "Per favor," and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. Sir, for 26 years, nobody looked at me like that. Not one person, not ever. And then a little boy did. And when he did, I found out something about myself I did not know. What did you find out, Miss Bennet? I found out that I am not a small woman. She was crying now. She did not care. I found out that I had been hiding from everyone for my whole life, because nobody ever gave me a reason not to. And then this little boy who everyone else ignored, he gave me a reason. And I'm not going to walk away from that, sir. I'm not going to a small town. I'm not going back to Fulton Street. I'm not going anywhere, because the first person who ever needed Clara Bennet is sitting on the floor next to you right now, and as long as he needs me, I am here. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Her ribs were screaming. She did not care. I'm staying. Don Moretti, I'm staying because I want to. Not because I'm afraid. Not because I owe you. Not because I have nowhere else to go. I'm staying because this is where I belong. The kitchen was completely silent. Alessandro Moretti stood up slowly from the floor. Luca stood up with him, still holding his hand. They walked across the kitchen until they were standing in front of her. Alessandro reached out and, for the first time since she had met him, he put both of his hands on her shoulders gently, like she might break. He looked down at her bruised face, at her split lip, at her honey-colored hair and her tired eyes. "Clara Bennett," he said softly, "welcome home." And Luca, 8 years old, dark curls, pink mark gone from his jaw, looked up at her and said the thing he had been waiting his whole short life to say to somebody. "Mama Clara." She dropped to her knees and pulled him into her arms, and she pressed her face into his dark curls and she held on with both of her hands, and she did not let go. She had walked into Benedetto's restaurant on a Tuesday evening as a shy waitress who had never raised her voice in her life. She had walked out of it on the arm of a mafia boss, into a black car, into a house, into a war. She had chosen, with a cracked rib and a split lip and a mason jar full of tips, to stand in front of a little boy she had known for 15 hours. And by standing there, Clara Bennett, 26 years old, invisible girl from Fulton Street, had finally at last become visible to the only people in the world who were ever going to matter. She was not going back. She was not running. She was not hiding anymore. She was home, and Clara Bennett, shy waitress, had just found her home.